is this Goodyear story as a leaked image from what appeared to be, of course, Goodyear tires, either a training seminar or something for employees about which attire is allowed and which attire is not allowed. And you had a story on this on informedamerican.com. Title here if everyone wants to check it out. It's true. Now even your tires are political. Goodyear bans MAGA hats, allows BLM. And I've shown this. I did do a quick video on this, but Rodney, for the audience, I'm going to show that leak or material. Now, this blew up as this image circulated around, and things really heated up, Rodney, as I throw it over to you, when the president called for a boycott of Goodyear. What do you make of this situation?
I think it's hilarious. I mean, it's just so interesting to me that a corporation would have out there. And by the way, Goodyear says, "Hey, this wasn't us. This didn't come from corporate, whatever." But they can say that all they want. It was in one of their training sessions, certainly, and even their statement distancing from it said, we want things that are inclusive and racial equity and social justice. So they essentially said, "Yeah, we're pretty much on board."
Yeah.
And so but look at what they're saying you can't do. You can't make a statement that says, "I am supportive of law enforcement." You cannot make a statement that you are supportive of the President of the United States of America. I don't care who it is. It's the President of the United States of America. And so I just find it essentially a travesty. And so they injected themselves. Yeah. When they said you can do X, but you cannot do Y, then they created the situation of, well, wait a second, you're now picking winners and losers on a whole different front. Has nothing to do with tires. And so if you're going to pick winners and losers over there, guess what? Some of the people that you tag as losers are going to be pretty annoyed. Why would they buy your tires, right? You identified them. And so I think the president has done a lot of things as a populist, and this is another one where he says, we should ban or boycott, not ban, but boycott Goodyear. And he's allowed to say that as a citizen of the United States. Now, historically, presidents wouldn't say that kind of thing, but he's not an historical president. And so I look at it and think somebody should be calling these corporations to account for the silliness they're getting involved in. It just makes no sense.
I agree. And Rodney, beyond picking winners and losers, to me, what's more nefarious about this is this Orwellian decision of what is political and what isn't political. And we've heard these tactics, like say climate change, just to give another example, that, that's not political. So when I come up with my policies to solve this non-political issue, you can't oppose me because then you're being political, kind of a thing. And this idea that Black Lives Matter is not political, it's the most, one of the most ridiculous things I've heard of the year. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I find it all to be a shift of language in order to get your way, right? And you say Orwellian, in 1984 in the Ministry of Truth, where everything was an untruth. And it's kind of that way. But again, I find it to be a very poorly thought out strategy by Goodyear to use the words that they did and to do the things they did. And so really they should just punt the whole thing. If you're going to allow it, allow it all. Everything except words that we all know to be offensive, right? The curse words, whatever. If you're not going to allow it, then don't allow any of it and move on and make stupid tires.
Yeah, well, certainly. And also, I want to, all of you watching, I'd love to know what you think about this Goodyear situation and all the topics that we covered today. Go ahead and comment just below the video. I can see those and read those and interact with those in real time. So I want to encourage you to do that. Rodney, Goodyear, well, I got two more things on this. There is an update on from Goodyear. Apparently, they did what I think is a sensible thing, which is to clarify their position. They kind of backed down because, as you mentioned, who's going to buy their tires? Well, apparently, a lot of police, local police, they patrol on tires, and Goodyear, they supply a lot of tires to patrol cars. Could you imagine if every police department in the United States stopped buying Goodyear tires? So maybe we need to pump the brakes on this a little bit. But they did clarify. So it appears the new rule now will allow, let's say BLM, as mentioned before, will allow statements like all lives matter, blue lives matter, that sort of thing, and just a blanket ban on overtly political things, like things from campaigns. So that would include MAGA, that would include Biden things. I think that's pretty fair. What do you think about that?
Fair, yeah, okay.
So you want the whole thing? I mean, you want just allow whatever you want? Is that?
I want it either way, all of it or none of it. Because at some level, to your point of just a couple of minutes ago, is Black Lives Matter political? If it is, then guess what? You're now being included. Right. And so it just, I think that they're parsing something they don't need to be in. They need to be focused on making stupid tires. And so if this becomes widespread, which I think it is, the Business Roundtable that was actually just about a year ago, by the way, where the 181 leaders of the larger corporations in America said, hey, it's no longer shareholder capitalism. It's now stakeholder capitalism. We have to not just be beholden to shareholders, but also the workers, the community, blah, 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 blah. They're running far afield of what they're supposed to do, because it's the arrogance of saying, well, I run a company that makes tires, therefore I have knowledge and ability to make decisions in socioeconomics. It's like, are you stupid? No, you don't have that capability. You haven't proven it, right? You don't have a history of it. And so why would you go there? And so I am not a fan. I believe in, letting people work in their personal area and move along. Go to your job, do your job. You want to talk about something on break, knock yourself out. But the corporation should stay as far afield of this as possible.
Agree. We got a comment here from Rosie Phillips. One more on my no list, says Rosie Phillips. So she's not a fan of Goodyear. She will not be buying Goodyear tires. Rodney,
well, that's just it. What do you win? What does Goodyear win by any of this, right? They don't do a better job of serving their clients I presume they think they make the best tires, right? And so what they've just done is lost Rosie. What they've just done is lost a number of people that commented on our website who said, I was going to buy tires this week, today. One gentleman, Larry, I believe, was going to buy tires today. And he said he is not going to buy them now. He's going to go to another store. It just makes no sense, right? For something for politics where those tires could have been the best fit for their car. Now, for an unrelated reason, they're gone.
There was a funny meme you might appreciate. It was basically like a cartoon with that leaked image that I showed the audience earlier, and it's almost like a Dilbert situation where one worker says, "How is this going to help us sell tires?" and the other worker says, "Tires." So
exactly, exactly, right.
So they're not selling. So the point made there. Now I want to ask you, really, I promise, Rodney, last question on this before we move on. This issue of conservative-minded folks are typically not active. They're not boycotters. They generally want to be left alone. But I think this was an interesting demonstration of at least getting your point across. I think boycotts in and of themselves are generally going to be ineffective, but that's maybe not the point. The point is to raise awareness to something that you find unacceptable. What do you think of that?
No, I haven't done a study of it. So I no blanket statements because I don't know the answer. Anecdotally, what you see, right? You don't see a lot of big conservative boycotts or demonstrations like that. Really, what you instead see are people vote with their pocketbook, and the Goya thing from just a few weeks ago is a great example where there was this call to boycott Goya because the CEO had appeared at the White House and said supportive things to the president, and instead what happened was their products were bought off the shelves. I mean, at record numbers. They couldn't keep up. And so I think you see more of that where conservative people tend to actually place a vote with their checkbook by either buying something like Goya or in this case, not buying it by Goodyear, which at some level has a much bigger effect.
So now we've got our food is political, our seasonings, our tires. Yeah. I mean, we're going to have the pen. Where's the next fight going to be? It's unbelievable.
Well, and that's just it. And so we can't, and I apologize for spending too much time on this. It's important. Apologize or spend time on it. Let's not go there. So it's important because when companies start to politicize, they change our behavior because they're making a statement that they believe in a certain way as a corporate entity, which I find idiocy to begin with. But the leaders say, well, this is what all of us strive for. And it sets up an us and them, right? How does it help anyone? And so I'm not better served by buying spices because the CEO of Goya decided that he supports or doesn't support someone. I really shouldn't include that in my thinking because what do I care, right? And somebody would say, well, but that person then uses the wealth of the company to support this thing, blah, blah, blah. That's the end of the day, right? It's the money. And so if these companies are then supporting certain ideas, whichever end of the political spectrum they're on, then they're using the wealth of the company to do it, and that's not theirs to do. That's always my point. They don't own that. That's owned by the shareholders. And who can tell you that all the shareholders agree that you should hold this position or that one? That's why I think they should stay completely clear of it and just move on and do their job.
I agree 100%.